Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello and welcome to Message in the Middle. I'm your host, Marianne, and joining me today is Thom. Marie is a self-described big knickers wearer, frantic chin plucker, gin lover, a woman who draws on her eyebrows because they're balding at an alarming rate, and a muffin top fighter who worships at the altar of the incontinence liner. Aside from that hilarious personal description, Marie is also someone who built a community around her writings on the Facebook page Midlife Dramas in Pajamas and has written articles for Good Housekeeping, Best, and Menopause Life magazine. She's been interviewed on the BBC Radio Newcastle, and she regularly speaks to women's groups about midlife and menopause. Marie's Facebook page was born out of the desire to make her followers laugh and realize that they're not alone while traveling the menopause journey. But over time, it's grown into so much more, including having the funny poems she posted used to support incontinence clinics, menopause training sessions, and a theater performance for International Women's Day. Marie's followers love her down-to-earth approach to life, along with her searing honesty about both menopause and her own life experiences. Marie, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's lovely to be here.
So I did a little bit of the who you are, but I'd love for you to share with the audience your journey into this whole Facebook page and sort of why you felt like it was needed. Give us a little background about where you came from and how you got to where you're at today.
Well, it was my 49th birthday and I went out for lunch with my husband and two sons. Everything was going perfectly. And then suddenly my youngest son, who was 13 at the time, reached out and took some of my hair between his thumb and forefinger and said, "Ma'am, as you get older, why does your hair go thin and wiry?" I nearly spat out my chicken breast. Eldest didn't know where to look, and husband very quickly went and got me another glass of large red. So calm was restored. But when I got home that day, I started to wonder about what he'd asked and thought that he probably did have a very valid question. And I assumed that the answer could lay firmly at the feet of the menopause. I Googled the menopause. I did not like what I found. So before this tsunami of middle age swamped me and everything started drying up, dropping off or sagging, I decided I would write a diary of the last year of my 40s. I have no idea why I decided to do that. It was just something on a whim. So I managed to write an entry every day, and I also managed to make it funny every day. In fact, I couldn't write about my life without finding the funny. So I did this for a few months, and then I eventually plucked up the courage to show my hubby a couple of entries, and he laughed. So I thought, oh, well, if he finds it funny, maybe ladies of my age will also find it funny. So I put it together into a book. I called it Crashing Towards 50, and I sent it off to a publisher and waited with bated breath. Never mind bated breath. The speed at which that rejection came hurtling back nearly took my breath away. The publisher said, yes, they found it very funny. Yes, they could relate to it, but I wasn't famous and I didn't have a platform, so nobody would want to read my book. So I realized I had to get a platform, and I started life with a blog. I didn't know what a blog was. My friends didn't know what a blog was, but I decided that's what I was going to do. And then my friend said I needed to be on Facebook. At this point, I wasn't actually on Facebook, but she said, no, you need to be on Facebook. So she set me up a Facebook page and she connected my blog and my Facebook page together. So every time I wrote a blog post, whoosh, it appeared on my Facebook page. I don't write my blog anymore. It's still out there. But the only way to get people to follow your blog is to follow other people's blogs. So I quickly followed a whole load of midlife humorous blogs. I didn't follow any serious ones. I didn't then and still don't want to be told what I should wear, how I should do my hair, how I should do my makeup. I just wanted to find the funny. So I followed quite a few, and then my inbox was absolutely bombarded with their blog posts, which I had to comment on, and I couldn't just go, yay, great read. I had to comment in a witty way because I wanted their followers to then follow my blog, and that my blog was funny. So in the end, I had no time to write my own blog posts. I was so busy commenting on everybody else's. So I stopped my blog and just concentrated on my Facebook page. And the rest, they say, is history. It's now grown to 59,000 followers. So, but that's how it all began.
I think people don't realize the effort in which it takes. You explained some of that with the blog, and any of these applications are like that, Facebook, whatever, the time it takes to try to really get out there and have people see your things. Mm-hmm. Even now, especially, Facebook's changed a whole bunch.
Yeah.
She's rolling her eyes, guys. But a lot of us will say to our communities, help me out, post or like, share, do whatever. That's the only thing keeping it alive. If people don't interact with it, you lose it. And it can be a lot of work for trying to get out there. Mm-hmm. But I'll get off my soapbox for a minute. I want to go back. So I've mentioned it before that the community knew that I was going to interview you. You were kind of the third spoke on my wheel. You have a couple of friends that are in the same space with Yvonne, Vincent, and Sarah Stenton. Mm-hmm. Both have similar missions. Yep. And I'm going to ask you a similar question that I asked them. Why did you focus on and what made you really zoom in onto menopause and then finding the comedy in menopause? I think that's where people are really connected with you because there's so much that goes on that we don't understand and that we can't explain and that we hate. And being able to make it more human. But what for you? I mean, was it just that comment or did you start really finding those things every day and they were around menopause?
Well, I had started to get some symptoms. I was starting to get hot. My periods were going all over the place. I started to struggle with sleep. So obviously I was the right age to be starting the menopause. So when I began my page, it was all about midlife and the menopause. But what I like most about my page is that so many ladies will say to me, I thought I was the only one that happened to, or, oh my goodness, I didn't realize that was a symptom. These things are happening to me because of the menopause. And they like the fact that I look at it in an irreverent kind of way. There are plenty of people out there who've got the medical backgrounds and who will talk to you professionally about symptoms and what have you. But I, like my two friends that you mentioned, we want to support ladies going through it by finding the funny and helping them laugh. And quite often, ladies will comment on my page and say, I was having a really bad day. And so I've come to find your page because I know you will make me smile or laugh.
Yeah.
And ladies have said to me, you have helped me get through a really bad period in my life because you've made me feel not alone. You've made me feel that I'm sharing the symptoms and the feelings. And most importantly, you've made me laugh.
Yeah.
So it's all about supporting people, really, but also making them laugh. And it just makes them feel a little bit better if they can laugh. I laugh at myself all the time.
You have to. You have to.
have to.
It all just starts falling apart. You have no choice, right?
I know. Well, exactly. I mean, what do? You can sit in a corner rocking and crying and feeling miserable, or you can go, right, this is what's happening. It happens to every single woman on the planet. It doesn't matter what your beliefs are, where you're from, what you do, how you live your life. You are going to go through the menopause. You're not all going to have the same symptoms. Some people will have very few. Some people will have an absolute tidal wave of symptoms. But it does truly bring women together. You often hear the phrase, we're all in this together. And we quite often aren't because we're coming at things from different backgrounds, different aspects. But with the menopause, we really are all in together because we're all going to go through it in some shape or form.
What I love is that this wasn't something that was talked about much. And we're around the same age. And I think if you think back to our 20s, 30s, I can't remember anybody ever talking to me about it. And so that's the neat part that people are starting to get out there like yourself and get out there and have a conversation so that the girls coming up behind us won't be clueless when this kind of hits them over the head. So that's a big deal.
Exactly. I remember my mum referring to it as the change.
Mm,
And I have a lot of older ladies on my page. I have ladies in their 70s, 80s, and so many of them said to me, I wish you had been around when I was
yeah.
going through it, because they
Yeah.
just had to go through it, get on with it, deal with it.
Yeah.
It wasn't acknowledged. There were no allowances made for it. If you think now about workplaces, there's so much menopause training happening now in workplaces, but all those years back, there wasn't. You just had to crack on with it.
I agree.
So the more we talk about it, the better.
100%. I just want to acknowledge that there's a ton of menopause training happening there for you in the US. It's still not that common.
Really?
It's just, yeah, we're behind on that. It's just starting to happen. I didn't even realize that until I started interviewing people and talking about this topic too on various segments, and realized that it is such a big thing in Europe, and that in US it's not really. So it's just starting to get out there. So, but it's good. It's all good because it's a progression, right? At least it's progressing.
At least it started talking about
Correct.
it.
Correct. Yeah. I want to just acknowledge, though, that that is a focus area for you and something people love and can relate to. But I see in your page and in you something else that really stands out to me, because you're, for those that haven't been introduced to you until this, you're very feisty, and you're very like, I'm going to say loud, but I don't mean vocally loud in a big way. You're big, your presence is big. You wear the big bright clothes and you don't care, and you're just going to be you. And I think that's another important message, and also ties into something that you care deeply about, because when we first met, you said something about we shouldn't go invisible at this age. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Absolutely not. I have a black leather biker jacket, and I have bright red trousers. If I want to wear these things, I will wear these things. And I'm always saying that to ladies. I'm always posting pictures of me in outfits, short skirts, you name it. If I feel comfortable in it, I will wear it. And I've now had several ladies have commented to me to say, do you know what? I've been and bought a denim jacket because of you, or I've been and bought a leather jacket, or I'm now wearing bright flowery trousers because of you, because you have encouraged me to acknowledge that, no, we should not be invisible. We are just as valid, and we should be just as valued regardless of our age. And one of the poems I wrote was called The Invisible Woman. We're only invisible if we allow ourselves to be invisible. And I think we have to stop allowing ourselves to be invisible. Don't let people look through you. Stand firm. Say, I'm here. This is me, and I'm not going away.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of that comes from self-confidence, self-belief, learning to love ourselves. Some of that gets tricky as we start going through middle age and menopause, because we start feeling a little bit less than, right? And that helps us sort of easily fade into the background. So I think it's such an important message to people that it doesn't matter. You're still very vibrant, and there's so much life left in you, and to just be out there.
Exactly.
And I think that ties into another area I wanted to talk about, because you're doing some pretty amazing things. You are, taking on performing, and you have this big live event coming up now in September, Pause Live, which I want you to tell us about. But I also want you to tell us how you got the courage to do those things. Like, these aren't things you always did. You didn't always do these, but yet here you are in your 50s saying, I'm going to show up in a different way, and I'm going to just do these amazing things. So talk to us a little bit about that, because one of the things I strive to stress is how we need to push out of our comfort zones, because that's really where the magic happens. But it's so hard. It's so hard for some people to do. So talk to me a little bit about that.
It is very hard to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I've always felt opportunities might come your way, but you also should go and seek them out. So I now give talks to WI groups. And that came about purely because one of my followers, who actually lives locally but didn't realise she lived locally to me, she came to the theatre group to see a performance that I was in. And then on my page, I posted a picture of myself in costume saying, this is, I'm in a theatre group, what have you. She recognised me.
Wow.
And she thought, I've just seen her on stage in that play. So she contacted me to say, I'm assuming that you live in the Northeast. I'm a member of a WI. Do you do talks? And at the time I didn't. And I thought, well, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I haven't done yet, but I have been thinking about it. So yes, I'll come and do your talk.
Wow.
So I said yes, having never done it. I had thought about it, but that was as far as I'd got. So I was booked to go and talk to her WI. And then from there, I've just done a talk for their spring council. So there were lots of WI groups there. I've now got more bookings coming up. But don't get me wrong, the first one I did, my heart was pounding through my chest
Of
for at
course.
least the first 15 minutes. And I'd practiced it. I had it all on my crib cards. I thought, there's no way I can learn all of this because I taught for about an hour. There's no way I'm going to learn this. So I had it all on my crib cards. I'd made a PowerPoint presentation to go with it. So there was some great pictures on to illustrate what I was talking about. And I practiced it at home and I timed it and I made my husband sit and listen to it over and over again. He could have probably gone and done the talk without me if I'd been ill on the day. Oh, and then bless him, he bought me a book on public speaking. So I digested all of that and I learnt about breathing. So the whole time the chairperson was introducing me, I was sitting doing my in, 2, 3, 4, out, 2, 3, 4, breathing. So when I did finally get up, I was nervous and my heart was pounding, but not as much as it would have done if I hadn't done all the prep. So push yourself out of your comfort zone, but put the work in behind the scenes as well.
Yeah.
Don't just, So I did that. So I've now got those coming up. I've been on the radio. That was sheer luck as well. I was in a health food shop trying to find something for my thinning hair. And I was having a chat to the assistant. And this other lady was also in the menopause aisle. And she came over and we got chatting. And I said to her, I write a Facebook page for midlife ladies. Maybe you'd like to follow it. And she said, I have a radio show on BBC Radio Newcastle. Maybe you'd like to come on. So I said, absolutely.
Wow.
So I went along and did that. And that was live. That was a live 15-minute chat. That was really out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I bet.
Because that wasn't recorded and then presented. That was live. But again, pushed myself out my comfort zone. I've written for 2 or 3 magazines because I just decided I would contact them and say, this is me. I wrote a funny introduction similar to the one you've read. And I said, can I write an article for you? And they wrote back and said, absolutely. So I wrote an article for Good Housekeeping. That then went into Best magazine. I then contacted a magazine called Menopause Life magazine. I said, can I write you an article? She said, yes. I wrote her an article. Good Housekeeping Online asked me to do a different article on their website. So I did that. So some things come along by luck, like being asked if I did talks when I didn't, but I do now. And then meeting somebody in a health food shop. That was luck. But then a lot of things I've got because I've gone out and I've found them and I've asked. So Pause Live that I'm now doing, Pause Live started last year. It's in London. It's an all-day event. It's a mixture of, they have a wellness stage where experts talk about menopause symptoms. Then they have a live stage where comedians and more entertaining things happen. They have a wellness hub and they have exhibitors so people can take down things they sell and what have you. And it's all to do with the menopause. And it's all about bringing ladies together. I think there's about 2,000 people come together on this day. And it was on last year for the first time, and I had seen it flash up on my Facebook feed. And I thought, oh, wow, that would be great to be involved with, but that was too late last year. So this year I thought, I'm going to be there this year.
Good for you.
So I have a huge self-belief, which is sometimes I shouldn't have, but, you just have to go with it, don't you?
I love that, though. That's the magic, like having that. Do you know how? How did you get that? Did you always have that?
No, I didn't really. It's only since I've been older that I've developed that self-belief. I've always been humorous and witty, apparently.
That comes natural.
So I've always had that. Yeah, I've always loved to write, even though it wasn't something that I ever did. I grew up having dance lessons. I've always been involved in drama and I was a teacher. So I've always been standing up in front of people and I've always had that confidence to go on the stage. I mean, I've sung on the stage, I've danced, I've acted. I guess I've always had that kind of performance aspect within me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So you ended up reaching out to them to go into the Pause Live?
Yeah. Basically, I emailed Pause Live. I also have become friends with another lady who has a podcast called Two Women Chatting. And she was on last year. There were two of them. Now there's only one of them doing it. But they were down at Pause Live as well. So I thought, right, well, I'll ask her how she got to do it. So I'd had a chat with her, and then she said, well, I'll mention you to one of the organisers. So she did that in tandem. I'd also emailed one of the organisers to just say everything I'd done, everything I was doing, that I wrote funny poems. And I said, so can I come down and be on your live stage for about 15 minutes with my poems? And they said, yes.
Amazing.
There was no more surprised than me when she said yes.
Well,
So
congratulations.
I know, well, that's just all been finalised now. Hoping to get a big female comedian to like front it as well. So all these things just provide opportunities. I'm really excited. I've no idea what, if anything, might develop from this. They also had hoped, but were too late, to use my poems on the London Underground trains.
Oh
Which,
my goodness, that's a big deal.
yeah, but no, they were too late for that. But because they'd asked me to send down some of my poems, so I chose some because I've actually called it the Vagina Verses, because the poems are all about women. The session that I'm doing isn't all about the menopause. It's just about women. So I've got a poem about the smear test, a poem about the mammogram, a poem about lost libido, a poem about being beach body ready. You know,
All
it's
the
just
things.
all things to do with women.
All the things that we hate that change and that we don't understand. Yeah.
Yes, but we have to laugh about them because
yes.
how else are we going to get through it all?
Oh my goodness. I just love this all. The message there is that you've been reaching out and just knocking on doors, knocking on doors, knocking on doors. And they weren't all open. You did get some no's, but that's okay.
Yeah.
You didn't go curl up in the corner and say, you know, I'm terrible. I'm not going to be able to do any of this. You said, all right, I'll do a different thing.
Yeah.
So kudos to you.
Yeah. I mean, a few months ago, I wrote to probably 4 or 5 more magazines and sort of assumed, well, hey, I've been in this really big one. They're now all going to want me in theirs. And they all ignored me. So I thought, well, that's rude.
Yeah. That's rude. For a lot of this stuff, there's no book, there's no handbook that tells you how to do it, right? I mean, that I've talked about that with the podcast too. This was such a stretch for me, so out of my comfort zone. And I procrastinated a little bit, and then I just said, I'm just going to take that first step. And that's really all you have to do with all of these things. Take one step, because then you can figure out the next best step.
Exactly.
And if it's not the right thing and it doesn't go the right way, you go in a different direction. It's okay.
Exactly.
But
also don't necessarily give up. So these magazines that ignored me, actually one did reply to say, no, thank you, basically. So her, because I don't give up, and the others, I will be writing again. I'll give it a few months because they'll have forgotten me by then, because they must get to so many people. So I'm going to write to them again, only this time I'll be saying that I have appeared at Pause Live.
Yeah.
So the more things I do, the more kudos it gives me to go and do the next thing. If you see what I mean, it sort of builds up and has an effect.
Yeah.
Well, now I've been on Radio Newcastle, and now I'm doing Pause Live, and you know, all of these things. So it all helps.
Do you think now that you have this backing of a platform with a huge audience and you've been published regularly, you're doing these talks, will you try to push the book again?
Well, funny you should ask me that. I have contacted probably 5 or 6 agents again with my book, and they've all rejected me again.
Really?
Yes. So what I'm going to do, because the book is based on my Facebook page. So it's poems, it's anecdotes, it's jokes, and all those things from my page. Every time I now write a new post, I think, can that stand alone in a book? And if it can, I copy and paste it into my book. But I've now got nearly 90,000 words, and that's not all just pages of text, that's poems. Well, they take up a lot more space, and it's jokes and memes, and they take up a lot more space. So if I try to publish this book now, it would be bigger than the Bible. So I'm not sure that's going to work. So Yvonne, who you've already had on as a guest, has become a very good friend because we live quite close to each other, it turned out, which was bizarre. And she's been so successful self-publishing her fantastic series of books. She has said to me countless times, come over and I will help you self-publish your books.
Amazing.
So that's what I'm going to do over the holidays. I'm going to turn my big tome into 2 books and I'm going to self-publish them because I'm not going to be not published. I'm going to be published. And if I have to do that myself, I will do that myself. I am also, because I just obviously haven't got enough to do with my time.
Obviously.
She said, grinning. I started writing a play about the menopause because I'm part of a theatre group, so I'm hoping they'll put it on. And each scene is a different woman and a different, she's dealing with a different aspect of the menopause. It's a comedy, obviously. That's what I do. Obviously. And the last scene I was writing was about a lady who was trying to get back into the workforce. And she went for an interview and she was so far out of her comfort zone. It was quite unbearable, but funny. So she had no idea about technology and she was being interviewed by this young whippersnapper who didn't really help the situation. And I loved that scene. And as I was writing it, I started to think to myself, oh my goodness, I think I could write a whole book about this lady. Now, I've never, ever in my life thought I could write a novel. I've always thought I could absolutely not write a novel because I didn't think I'd be able to come up with that many words that was a story. But when I came across this, I say came across this character, that makes it sound as if she just appeared in my office room, whatever.
She did, in your head.
She appeared in my head and she flooded over the paper. So I thought, do you know what? I could actually write a novel about this character. So that's what I'm doing. I'm now 37,000 words through a novel. And that one, I really would like to get published by a publisher because it's about 5 ladies and each book is going to be about one of them. So this first one is about a lady called Paula and the other friends are on the edge. They're part of her life, but we don't look at their lives. And then once that's done, I'll move on to the next one in the group of 5 and it'll focus on her life and then Paula will be in the background.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to
start building on the community that they have.
Yeah. So, but you know what? If I don't get a publisher for those, I'll do it myself.
It's so interesting because I've heard from so many people now that they've gone the self-publishing route and I've heard it's really relatively easy to do.
It's very easy.
And I say easy kind of in quotes, right? Because there's work. You got to obviously do the writing and you got to get the editing and all that. But in comparison to try to find somebody who will publish you, I've heard that, Amazon and such makes it so easy to do that. I think a lot of people are jumping on that bandwagon. Yeah. So that's a good thing.
Years ago, self-publishing was seen as a vanity project and there were plenty of publishing houses who you could pay to publish your book. And they would tell you, yes, it's absolutely wonderful. This will be a #1 bestseller. But they would publish anything that you gave them because you were paying. But now, if you have to pay to self-publish, you're not in the right place because you shouldn't have to pay to do that. And now you can do it like through Amazon and it's a lot easier and it's not vanity publishing anymore and you're not having to pay out huge amounts of money to do that. Right. So it's developed.
Love that. I also want to go back to the fact that Yvonne is helping you with it because one of the things that you 3 ladies stand for and that stood out to me and really attracted me to all of you and your stories is the way you lift each other up. You support each other. You lift each other up. You help each other on each other's page. You send people back and forth to each other. My entire career was in corporate America, and I got to tell you, that is just not the norm. That's not what I'm used to, right? So to me, and you chuckle because you know what I mean, but to me, I just love the fact that it's such a supportive group, and each one of you guys have a supportive group, and it's not about trying to take all the people or take all the things for yourself. There's enough to go around, and you guys spread that message all the time. And I just love that. Love that.
There absolutely is. I mean, there are some big midlife pages on Facebook, and I've reached out at times and asked for a bit of help, asked if they'll share something of mine, and they just completely ignore you. It's as if they see that there's only a finite amount of success and they've got it, so they're not going to let you have any of it,
Yeah.
which is so wrong. We should be lifting each other up. So Sarah, Yvonne and I constantly support each other. As you've just said, Sarah's should have talked about her Minotaur. She came up here, up to the northeast. Yvonne and I went along to support her. I got up and did a couple of my poems. She asked me to. I didn't just barge my way in. Out of my way, I'm coming to do poems. And, not like that. So, we met her for dinner beforehand. We've met up as a 3 twice now for a good old cocktail session and a meal and a night away. And if one of us has an issue with somebody on our page, we'll all support and we'll all do what's necessary. And we're always sharing each other. I'm always saying, right, if you don't follow these two, go and follow them. And they do the same thing. Because success doesn't have a ceiling, and there is enough of it to go round. And what we would really like to do at some point is to do something as a 3, because I've always felt that there's strength in numbers. And I think that would be fantastic if we could somehow do something as a 3. Time's not right at the moment because the other 2 girls are doing their own thing. I'm doing my own thing. But I do hope at some point in the future we can come together as a 3 and do something, because I think that would be absolutely phenomenal.
I do too. And I agree. You guys will eventually figure it out. I think the message too I wanted to get out there beyond just the 3 of you and the friendship you guys have for each other. It's a message that I've put out there. Yvonne stressed it as well. It's find your cheerleading squad and find your community. And I want people to continue to hear that, because it's hard to do some of these things, right? I mean, the truth is, it is hard. You get nervous and you want to back out 500 times and all the things, right? You need a few people that'll push you along and they'll help you and push you, but also keep you kind of honest and give you some real feedback. And you just need to find your squad, find your tribe, whatever you call it. And I think your pages help people with that as well, because I think it forms the community there.
And absolutely. I know on my page, and I think I can speak for the other 2, I rarely get nasty comments. I've never had a troll, as they like to be known as. If I do get a nasty comment, I get rid of it, because as I always say to my followers, I'm not having it. This is a happy page. It's a community. They feel they can speak about things. They'll be supported, not just by me, but they support each other, total strangers supporting each other, because I've developed and grown a supportive community. So if anybody comes in thinking they're going to be rude and disrespectful and unpleasant, they can think again, because they're just kicked off because I'm not having it. I never enter into an argument. I'm not prepared to have an argument on Facebook. And I don't want everybody else to pile on and have an argument. I just don't want that vibe on my page.
I agree.
My vibe is happy and supportive and not having a dig and having a go.
I love that. And I see that. And it's the same vibe that I try for with mine, which is a tiny, small amount of people compared to the groups that you guys have grown. But it's the same vibe. It's supportive and it's loving and it's caring and it's, everybody wants the best for each other. And I think that we all need that. I think we all need that.
I regularly share achievements that my followers have. I have followers who have Facebook business pages that sell things. I have followers that have written books and self-published them, or poetry books and they've self-published them. Followers who have set up menopause support groups. And I'm always saying, if you have got something you want me to share, private message me. And if it fits with the page and the ethos and all of that, then I will share it. And so I constantly, that's sort of my thing. I will constantly share and support other women and try and give them a leg up. Yeah. Because why would you not? That's my theory. Why would you not?
Right. Why would you not? I think that's so fabulous. And honestly, that ties into why I started my community and my podcast, because I think that we all have experiences and life lessons. And if we can share them, we not only validate each other's experiences, but we can potentially share some shortcuts with other people. but it's not the norm. So kudos to you on
No,
that.
it isn't, sadly.
Yeah, it is sad, but kudos to you on that. I love that. As we start to wrap up, I want to just ask you if you would mind sharing one of your poems with us so that the listeners can get a feel for your work and kind of the things you put out into the world.
Absolutely happy to do that. I love writing poems, and I'm now loving reading my poems. So yes, absolutely. Okay, so this one is called The Smear Test. Come in, my dear, we're just in here, the nurse says as she smiles. I've just some things I need to ask. It only takes a while. Last period? No, I'm barren now. But how long since the last? Bloody hell, I've no idea. It's the dim and distant past. Well, go behind the curtain, please, and drop your bottom half. I quickly take my clothes off, wrap my knickers in my scarf. My clothes are folded just in case she thinks I am a sloven. That I'm messy and untidy, and my home is like a coven. My knickers languish underneath, they're well and truly hid. Imagine if she glanced across and saw them, God forbid. And now my top is all that's left to help me be discreet. It's long to hide my belly, I'd prefer it to my feet. Oh God, I haven't shaved at all, I realise as I freeze. My pubes are sparse, I'll grant you, but they go down to my knees. She hands me what can only be described as very small. A scrap of kitchen paper, that won't cover it at all. My legs go up, my knees flop out, she goes in for the kill. She hasn't worn the speculum, I shudder from the chill. She chats away to keep me calm and help me to relax. My fanny's clenched up tighter than a rich guy hiding tax. And then it's done, and off she goes and leaves me to get dressed. But not before the tissues come to clean up all the mess. I walk down to the cafe with a slime-filled, moistened gusset. Some proper wipes would have been nice, but I didn't want to push it. I choose a cake and cup of tea. I deserve a little treat. My bum makes contact with the chair, then I slide right off the seat.
That is it's all of it. It's funny, but it's also, as each part you're saying, I'm like, so relatable, right? We've all been there. We've all had those experiences and felt that way. Oh my gosh. And when you talked about hiding your underwear or
why do we do that? Why do we all do that? We all do that. We all hide our knickers under the clothes.
I have no idea, but we do. I don't even know that I knew we all did until you said.
And we all wear long tops because we want to cover our belly.
And like they can't see our belly is there. Same thing.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you think about what's going on, why are we worried about our bellies? But we all do it.
Oh, I just love it. I love it. I love your work. I love that you're making fun of it and lightening up it can be a difficult subject for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
So I'm thrilled that you're putting some light and levity.
And also, when I put that poem on Facebook, I added at the end, I know that I'm making this funny, but please keep your smear test appointments. And I did the same with the mammogram. I said, please, please, please keep your regular mammogram appointments. It could save your life.
Yeah.
So I do often shove in a serious bit at the end, you know.
Yeah.
So,
right, because it's right. The point is, it's something we have to do, but make it a little bit of a lighter experience when you can kind of keep that in the back of your head. I love it.
Exactly.
Is there anything we didn't touch on that you would want to leave with the audience?
Yes. Don't let your age define you or limit you. I was 49 when I started all of this, not 29. All of this has happened, and I'm now 58, and I'm still doing new things. So Pause Live is now this massive thing that's opened up for me. Oh, and I should just say the date, if that's okay. It's Saturday the 14th of September this year, 2024. Tickets are on sale now. So so don't let age define you. Don't let age limit you. The world is your oyster. Reach for the skies. Don't think about your age, really. If there's something you want to do, go and flipping do it. You know, just get out there and just go for it. That's what I want to say.
That's a great message. Thank you for sharing that with us. I will put all of your links in the show notes so people can find you and the work that you're doing.
Thank
you. And I hope people connect with you and all the stuff you're putting out into the world because it's fabulous. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself.
Same.
It was lovely. Thank you.
So much fun. Thanks for talking today and sharing your insights. Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review, as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.